By the way, I don't want anyone to get up and leave one word. I have to post a picture of this to Instagram. So, stay in your seats.
You're a bit of a jack of all trades when it comes to writing, from short stories to your short novels to the big doorstops like The Fireman.
Yeah.
Do you have a preference, or is one easier to write?
I have like the cheesiest answer on the planet to this question, which is my favorite form of writing is whatever I'm working in right now. You know, but like when I was late teens, early 20s, I loved the work of Neil Gaiman. I was really into it. I still do, but I was really into it, and I was also really into his career. I mean, thinking about his career. By then, I knew I wanted to be a professional writer, and I thought it was interesting that Neil wrote comic books and short stories and novels and screenplays and fucking sonnets. I mean, like, the guy worked in every possible literary form, and he always seemed like when he got into a literary form, he went in a knowledgeable way, where he looked at it and said, these are the possibilities. I'm going to take advantage of all the strengths of this particular form. I'm not just gonna, because like sometimes people who are novelists will try to write comic books, and they don't do a good job because there's like too much text on the page, and they'll have like 15 panels on every page, and it just doesn't seem like they know how people read comics, how visual it is. You know, you can always tell a really beautifully written page of a comic book because there won't be any text on it. You know, a page without any word balloons on it was really well written. It sounds strange, but that's when you can get out of the artist's way and tell the story through pure visuals, you're really making the form work. So I would look at Neil and I would say, I feel like that's how a modern writer should operate. You know, you should be flexible enough to shapeshift to get from one form to another and make yourself comfortable there and tell your stories in that other form. So, you know, when I was writing comics, I was happy writing comics. When I've written long novels, I love long novels. When I was writing the short novels, I thought, man, short novels are where it's at. You know, most recently I've been working on screenplays for a television show based on my comic, and it's been so much fun. I've just completely loved it. So, I mean, I get to play make-believe for a living. It's a pretty good gig.
Your Lock and Key has finally found a home in Hulu.
Yeah.
Has it changed much from the original concept?
So, Lock and Key is a comic book I spent 7 years writing. I co-created it with the incredibly gifted Gabriel Rodriguez, who did so much more than just draw beautiful illustrations, although he is one of the very best illustrators in all of comics. And Lock and Key is about this enchanted New England house that's full of magical keys. Every key opens a different door and activates a different supernatural power. That's the elevator pitch. And it has a beginning, middle, and an end. You know, it's not like, you ever read The Flash? The Flash has been around for 50 years. Every issue, he just keeps flashing. Yeah, there he is, flashing again. You know, and so now we're doing it as a TV series. I wrote the first script, the second script. I worked on the third script with the very talented C. Robert Cardinal, who is the writer of a great science fiction novel called Sea of Rust, as well as the movies Doctor Strange and Sinister. We got a great writer's room, a terrific cast. The director is a guy named Andy Muschietti. Andy directed a terrific horror film called Mama, and then this year he shifted direction, he changed direction. He did a family film about 6 little kids in the 1980s who befriend a magical clown and go on thrilling adventures together. So that's a good one. It's in theaters now, and that is a good one to take the little kids to. So tell them I sent you. So Andy came in to direct, and he works with his sister Barbara, who is just as talented as him. She's the producer, and they're filming up in Nova Scotia, and it just looks so beautiful. I mean, it's just, they caught Nova Scotia at the exact perfect time. Looks exactly like the comic. We have stayed true to the spirit of the characters in the comic. We have mostly stayed true to the narrative, but we have thrown in some left-hand turns to keep the readers of the comic off balance, so you can't feel completely like, I know what's happening, because you don't. We've got some good tricks we're going to play on you. There is one change that I have started to talk about, which is in the comic book. The name of the town is Lovecraft, Massachusetts. In the and I did that as a tribute to H.P. Lovecraft, who created a remarkable vision of horror in the 1920s and 30s, and you know, had some new ideas. He brought some new ideas to horror fiction about the immensity of the terrifying universe we live in and how small we are in comparison. He created these great, you know, hideous elder gods which could just, you know, crush us like we're ants. And you know, he wrote some beautiful. Well, he couldn't write worth a shit. I mean, the sentences. I mean, like the sentence by sentence stuff. Fucking ghastly. But the stories themselves reverberate with you know, with power. He was also a hideous racist, and over the last decade, more and more of how racist he was has come out. And I do think he wasn't. I mean, some of that I think was he was mentally ill. He wasn't just scared of black people. He was terrified of women. I mean, you know, to him, the only thing more scary than the elder gods was pussy, you know. And he was scared of other people. He was scared to be touched. He lived like this shriveled old spinster in his house in Providence, never leaving, sort of looking out at the world through his windows. So I sort of have some, I sort of pity him in a way to be so shut down inside. But I also kind of felt like, well, we're going to do this TV show. Do I want to plant a big Confederate statue right in the middle of our TV show? And I thought, I feel like I honored him enough in the comic book. Maybe we could do something different in the show. So on the show, the town is Matheson, Massachusetts, after a different writer who's pretty cool. We should do. I don't want to, you know, I don't want to blab at you too long. I'm sure we won't, but we should do some questions, and in fact, we have to do some questions from the crowd. And I'm going to tell you why. So, when I went on tour for The Fireman, my last novel, The Fireman is a story about the world crumbling under an onslaught of infection and fire. And naturally, that subject matter made me think of the sunny Disney musicals of the 1960s. So the book is loaded with like musical, right? The book is almost a musical. And when I went on the road for that book, I wanted it to be like, I wanted the appearances to be musical too. So I had a bunch of kazoos made up, and at every stop, I would assemble a kazookestra. And the way I would do it, I would find 3 people in the audience. The way I would pick them out is I would look for whoever seemed the most vulnerable, and I would call them up on stage, and I would give them kazoos. There were new kazoos every night, because it would be really gross if it was the same. Very unhygienic. And then we would have a sing-along, and the kazookestra would play. And I thought, man, that was fun. So I wanted to do the same thing for Strange Weather, but I wanted to do something that was on theme. So I had a bunch of Strange Weather umbrellas made up, which don't work as well as musical instruments, to be honest. But I do have them. So the good news is there is rain in the forecast, and I can say with utter certainty that 3 people are going home dry tonight. The bad news is 147 of you might get wet, but I can't cover all of you. I've got 3 umbrellas to give away, and I thought I would give them away to the best questions. Matt can't win one. As for how to decide what was the best question, we'll just know. You'll be able to tell from the looks of envy and hate on the faces of the people around you. So with that in mind, let's just go for it with a show of hands. Let's see. How about you? If you